Yeah, it was a wild race. I'll tell you, our car, we struggled with it throughout the weekend. Friday, we were very good. Worked real hard on it over the evening. I looked at what the 17 was doing. And then what we did here last race. And we were much better on Saturday, fastest in both practices, and got it going really fast. So, the race today, my car was super good at the beginning of the race when the track was kind of green and we got going there. But once I got on restarts and in traffic, I wasn't that good. And, I kept working on it, trying different things, dragging the brakes down in the corner, get it to go a little bit better. But we were so good out front. I told Matt, I said, if we can get out front, I know we can win with this car. The car was really good. But, once I passed the car, I could run the next guy down by half a second a lap. So I knew once we got out front, we'd be tough to beat. And that was the case once we got out there. And then that pit cycle put us back. That was really bad. But I got a great restart and made up a bunch of those spots. And we're able to close it on the 48 there at the end. I moved my line around in 3 and 4 and moved up getting in the corner and drove it in the corner a lot further. And the rights really held the car, and I could go to the gas early. His only end he was beating me on down here, and I got it turned around and was catching him, and then his engine failed. So it was going to be a great race no matter what. I felt like I could catch him, but we'll never know. Passing him might have been a different story, but I certainly think that with 7 to go, I could have probably pulled up close to him.
Well, let's open it up now for questions from the floor. If you could raise your hand, state your name and affiliation. Any questions for our race winner? We'll go here to Stan Creekmore in the back.
Hi, Stan Creekmore with RPMtonight.com. This is actually for both Greg and Jack. Greg, you've been very quiet kind of all year long in going for this championship situation. What does this win mean today to you as that countdown gets so close? And Jack, is Michigan the most important place for you because you're a native here to win at?
Well, I know that a lot of people don't expect us to win the championship and don't expect us to compete for the title, but I don't care what they say or who they want to talk about or what they talk about, but we will be a factor when it comes down to Homestead. I promise you that.
It's fun to race in front of the home crowd. We've got 2 suites here. We've got our biggest hospitality of the year for the 2 Michigan races of any racetrack venue that we do hospitality on for Roush Industries, and our NASCAR sponsors as well. That's important, but my most important race is my next one, and I'll go to bed tonight not thinking about what happened today, but worrying about what's going to happen to Bristol when we go into that crash fest they're going to have down there.
Let's go over here.
George Poley, the Macomb Daily. For Jack, it had been 7 races since you had won here after you had won like 6 out of 11. Does that meet your definition of a drought? And were you starting to get a little frustrated or wondered what was going on here?
Well, there's rhythms that go through this thing. There was a year that we won, I think, 9 races with Mark, and then another year that we won 8 or 9 races with Carl. We probably weren't good enough to have deserved all that on those years. But we've had many other years when we haven't won as many times or as often as we should have, and you have to suffer through the rough times to be able to enjoy the good times. We're due to have a good run and hopefully be in the chase this year with one of the drivers, Roush Fenway's drivers. But I never really lost faith in the organization nor in myself, nor the engines we've got, nor the hardware we've otherwise built. It's the best we can do, and it's good enough. And on a day like today, when Greg has trouble or one of the drivers has trouble, they'll hoist it up on their shoulders and they'll carry it farther than you might think they could. And that happens more times than not. And most of those times are when you win your races, not when you've got the dominant car.
Well, send it upstairs to the press box for a couple questions.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Greg, you kind of just alluded to this a little bit, but you also said it Friday that you were kind of glad if people weren't paying attention to you. And going forward, does that help at all? Do you think? Jimmy Johnson said a week or two ago that being in the points lead actually created like unneeded pressure because it drew so much attention and questions. Has your team benefited from that, and can you stay there if you hope to run as well as you want to come chase time?
Yeah, I mean, I probably do. I probably approach it differently. I know in my heart, I know what our team's capable of, and I know what I'm capable of as a driver on the racetrack. So I focus on that, and I don't really put a lot into what people, talk about and the drivers they talk about and the, what the stories are. And I'll go home kicking rocks like I did last week. I was disappointed with myself. I left that racetrack without the point lead, and it was totally my fault. I gave up 2 positions on the last lap at Watkins Glen and handed the point lead to the 48 car. That went under the radar. Nobody said a word about it. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody even knew about it, except for me, because I was driving the car and I knew that I gave up those 2 spots and I was 1 point behind the 48 coming here. I pay attention to what we need to do as a team and not make mistakes and do what it's going to take to win this championship. And if it's not a story and they don't cover it, then that's fine. But they'll be forced to after Homestead.
We're going to keep it upstairs. Go ahead from the press box.
Monty Dutton, Gaston Gazette. This is for Jack. Jack, earlier, just a few moments ago, Brad Keselowski raised the issue of the continuing scuttlebutt. Well, I guess you guys who are there know a lot more than we do about the supposed travel or irregularity in the rear ends of the Hendrick cars. Keselowski said that was a sort of stretching of the rules that his team was reluctant to do because NASCAR allowing them to get away with it. And I just wondered what your feeling is on that subject.
Well, the 24 car put her left rear tire through the battery at Darlington, and that was kind of a wake-up call for some of us. And it took us a while to figure out what they were doing, but we've been working at it, and I've got assurance from NASCAR that it's okay. It's within the rules, and it's not the reason we were able to win today, but it certainly is hard to win if you don't have a competitive aero package and chassis mechanical grip package.
I think, to follow that up, I think more what people are working on today is, NASCAR cut 1.5 inches off the right side skirt. And so that threw us all for a loop right in the middle of this thing. So we took our notebook, what we raced here, even just what we raced here last time, and threw it away. It completely changed the way we race these cars compared to the way we used to race these cars. And it's all rear suspension related. There's a lot more to it than this thing that these guys think's going on with the rear end, but it's morally just a whole entire rear end suspension package, getting a car down and sealing the right side off, and every team's doing it. So there's a lot more to it. I think I've been reading some stuff about it, and it's not any one thing that we've figured out as a team to get our cars down out of the air and sealed up on the right side and get it going around the corner better.
Got one more question upstairs, then we'll go to Bob.
I have a question to the crew chief, Matt Puccio, Wolfgang Munzer from Germany, Rennsport Press Agency. I think Johnson's engine blew up in lap 195 or something like that. What did you radio to Greg? I mean, just in case when the engine of Jimmy Johnson had not blown up, did you have something in the case tactic-wise to let him overtake Johnson, or what did you tell him?
Oh, we just told them, basically, when we restarted there fifth, I think the restart before, I just kind of told them that we're not obviously. I knew we had a fast car, and we were capable if we could just get to him, be able to get around him. But when that happened to Jimmy there, it just I think we had a good enough car to actually catch him and pass him just normally. But when that happened, obviously we took advantage of it and were able to get around him.
Let's go back downstairs here to Bob.
Bob Parker, Sporting News. I have one for Greg and one for Jack. First, Greg, continuing on the side skirt issue is, did you have to throw everything away because the car handles so much differently, or is it because you're just trying to get the body of the car as low as possible, and therefore now that it's a different height that you have to change things?
Right. Yeah, you're exactly right. These cars, you want to seal the air out from underneath them. You want to get the splitter as low as you can in the front. And then when the car goes around the corner, it goes around the corner a little bit in yaw. We have a little skew in the axle housing, what NASCAR allows us. And so with that right side skirt cut up high, it allows a lot of air underneath the car, the back of the car, and it takes downforce away. So we try and get our cars down on the racetrack, and everybody does it, but it was a whole different, it takes a whole different package. It takes different sway bars, it takes different springs, different angles on all of the stuff. So it took a tremendous amount to get, and some guys were kind of racing like that already, and we weren't as an organization. We tried on it, hit on it a little bit. I ran a car like that at Kansas a few years ago, finished third with it, the second chase race, softer in the back, down a little bit, but we weren't able to really perfect it. And then when the side skirts cut up, we were committed. We had to go work on it and figure it out. And some guys just got it figured out faster than us.
And for Jack, I know a lot of engine builders were nervous coming into today, and obviously the Hendrick cars and Hendrick engines had their issues. Were you nervous, or do you play this race conservative at all when it comes to engines?
Well, I wasn't more nervous than I'm always nervous about breaking apart. I assume the responsibility if something breaks. That's something that we should have understood or anticipated. Wasn't figuring that there was anything that was similar. Nothing in particular that was similar with the Hendrick engines. We've got our own valve spring package, we've got our own connection rod package, we've got our own crankshaft and bearings, and we don't share any parts with them. So there was no reason why I was more nervous than I would normally be, but I had my fingers crossed until it was within coasting distance of the start-finish line there.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We're going to go back to Stan.
This question is for Jack Rouse. Stan Creekmore with RPM tonight again. How swamped are you and the organization with the fact that you're dealing with the rear end issue that you're just talking about? You're trying to run for a championship. You've got at least two cars that have extreme capability of winning the championship, and you're working with all the 2013, which is going to be a totally different car altogether once again. How busy and swamped are you right now?
We probably don't have the most people that are per team, but we do have 100 people that stand behind every one of our cars. And those people are talented and resourceful and ambitious and able, and they do a lot. I try to lead and be engaged with the management by a consensus thing, but we've got a lot of capacity. I asked a question the other day. I says, I shouldn't have asked it because the answer didn't make me all that happy, but I asked a question as we were talking to somebody in the interview process about how many trailers we have for R&D. We've got 4 R&D trailers, and we don't run them all the same time. But if we're in a situation where there's a test and we have a need to go with all 3 of our programs and maybe one of our satellite programs, we can support 4 R&D teams. And there's a lot of capacity there. But our brightest people are dealing with they are split with the concern over making the hardware as competitive as it would be for 2012. But focus a certain amount of time on 2013 as well. We haven't had the sheet metal and haven't been able to build righteous 2013 bodies. We've done a little testing with 2013, but they've been with composite bodies that have got a lower CG than the cars will have. So the rubber really hits the road when we start in September getting all the sheet metal together so we can build real cars. And from that point on, then the real rub is going to occur in the chase when we're needing to run the 2013 car, and we're also needing to make the most of our chase opportunities, but we've got a lot of capacity.